Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the next part in my collection and declutter series. Today we're looking at tarot decks from yet another rack that has been hanging on my wall. Let's get into all these decks. All right, I've just got everything right next to me that we're going to be talking about. Let's kick this off with an Inside Editions deck. I've only got a couple of these because these decks tend to fall, this particular company, Inside Editions, their decks tend to fall a little bit flat. But this one has been really fun. I've really enjoyed my time with this, and I've got one other that's not in this pile that will hit at some point in the collection. But the Disney Villains Tarot deck, I think, is fairly well done, honestly. Some of the Inside Editions decks, as I said, can be a little hit or miss, but this one feels pretty comprehensive. I wish there was a compatible deck with this. Like, I wish there was a, like a heroes or a princesses and princes, or like if there's heroes, if there's villains, it would be fun if there was also like heroes and princesses or something. I don't know. A companion deck. Anyway, I really like the feel. They don't feel expensive, okay? Inside Editions decks feel pretty basic, papery, but they have like a nice finish on them. So they've got that kind of matte lamination feeling that I really like. At least this one does. I'm trying to remember if my other one feels the same way. I think it does. Anyway, because this is all bad guys or villains, it's a really great deck for when I'm feeling mad or frustrated and I just want to be like in my own personal villain era for a minute. I guess you could say this is my rage deck, as Dawn and Marlena would say. So this is definitely a great deck for digging into the nitty gritty, but it's also kind of fun. I mean, I pulled this deck out and enjoyed playing with this deck a lot when I was playing Disney Dreamlight Valley, and I talked about that. I don't know if this is a deck that I really need necessarily, but I can't think of very many tarot decks that I would be comfortable assigning an angry energy to, and this one works fine for that. I'm not attached enough to it, so if it ended up kind of tainting the deck for me or making it feel weird, that's fine, because, you know, it's not an expensive deck. I'm not like crazy bonded or attached to it, but it does work well when I just need a little bit of that villain energy just to get through whatever minute I'm having, whatever frustrated moment I'm having. So it's really nice for that. But it's just kind of it was just kind of a fun little impulse buy that has worked out pretty decently. So it's safe for now, but it's nothing that I'm like super, super married to. But this deck, I love this deck. I don't use it a ton, but I love it. It's the Healing Waves Tarot. This one, I know that the creators of this were looking at doing a reprint at some point. Now, when they first put this up on Indiegogo, they weren't going to do that at all, and they've been really sweet and transparent with their people that follow them on their newsletter or whatever, to just ask how people would feel if they did do an updated version, talking about how they, you know, do their best to keep it, this original version, unique. I really love this. It's got that really nice, smooth, rose petal-y kind of finish. The cardstock's not crazy thick. It shuffles nice. It's watercolor art that was watercolor that was activated with ocean water. So it has really lovely oceany energy. I really love this deck. It gives me all of the like oceanside summer vibes. It's got a little bit of mermaid action, some really sweet little jellyfish. It's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which I really like. And I like the way that the water is done. It's the same as what you see on the backs of the cards. I actually have one of the original paintings from this deck that the creator sent me, which I absolutely adore. It is the King of Pentacles, and I love it. There it is, the King of Earth. This is the one I have the original painting of, and I'm so touched to have it. But in any case, it's just a lovely ocean deck. It's fun. I was very, very excited about it when it hit Indiegogo, and really wanted to support the campaign being successful because I really believed in this deck, and got a chance to show some prototype cards, and I kind of lost my mind about it, and I'm very grateful. And it's in this like nice wavy bag. Very safe. Let's just grab something else from the pile. This is the Zeks Arcana, and I love this deck. I love this deck. When I talk about having pip decks, so in my last collection chunk, I talked about pip decks and the Tattoo Tarot and how it just doesn't do it for me anymore. And it's because I have decks like this. This is totally my speed as far as pip decks go. It's fun. It's colorful. It's got all the like weird vibes. It reminds me of, I don't know, like I've never watched Sailor Moon. I know somebody tell me how terrible I am. I know I should have watched it, but this kind of reminds me of the, I don't know, aesthetics of that show. if from what I've seen, I think it's the wands. I think the wands are very Sailor Moony or something. I just really love it. I love the colors. I love the whole palette of this deck. It's so fun. I really enjoy it. So if I want to dig out like a pip deck, this is such a great one. It's just great. I just love it. It makes me happy. I love these colors. And the hot pink metallic edging, I mean, come on. Yeah. This one's totally safe. Totally safe in my collection. For sure. Adorable. What else we got? Let's talk about another Ellen Lorenzi Prince deck. So I talked about the Tarot of the Crone in my last section. This is the Dark Goddess Tarot. This is the indie edition, and I'm so grateful to have this edition because I really did not enjoy the mass market version, but I do have the mass market guidebook because having a full-size guidebook for this deck I think is a must. And the indie version, when I got it, a bigger guidebook was not available. All that was available was the little pamphlet that comes with the cards, which is fine, but I wanted something more in-depth, and the mass market version of this deck comes with an incredible guidebook. I just prefer the cardstock, the backs, and the design of this indie version. So really great goddess deck. If you want to dig into goddess mythologies from all around the world, this is definitely a good one. You've got different pantheons from Celtic to Greek to Aztec. There's just all kinds of cultures represented throughout, and it's wonderful. It's really, really wonderful. Kali, the Morrigan, the Black Madonna, Face of the Deep. I mean, there's just really great energies here. This has never felt like the kind of thing I could read like a tarot, though, in all honesty. I've always really ever worked with this a single card at a time. There is the Fool's Dog app. So you can get an app for your phone that has the full guidebook in it. And I did do that. I do own that app and I was using it, but I prefer physical guidebooks. So yeah, totally worth it. So I think what I did is I purchased the mass market version of the deck, and then I gifted the cards to a friend and kept the big physical guidebook, which is why I bought it. So, you know, nothing got wasted in that process. Like here's Newt. Or is it Newt? I think it's pronounced Newt. Blodaiweth, Scylla, Isis, Spider-Woman, Hecate, Maman, Brigitte, Lethe. So yeah, it's a really, really, really incredible deck, but it's not the kind of thing that I use like a tarot, and yet it's definitely something that I like having available to pull cards from. Part of me is like, I should just hang it with my Oracle decks. I probably would use it more often if I did that, but it's not an Oracle, it's a tarot, and that's where I've landed with it. So it's safe though. It's definitely not going anywhere. All right, let's talk about this one. I truly can't decide. Although I might have some other opinions about this now. This is the Wizard Tarot. I've edged it in colors that literally match this bag and the backs of the cards. And this is a Barbara Moore deck. It's kind of got the vibes of being at wizard school, like at a wizard academy. And it's really fun. It's super colorful. It definitely has fantasy art vibes through and through. Love the world. I love all the bright pink lotuses through the cup suit. It's actually really, really great. There's a couple of cards in here that I'm like, I don't fully get the connection, but it's there. It just is a different connection than where like maybe I would take a card, and that's fine. I like the different perspectives. What's kind of sold me on this deck more recently, or has me more drawn to it, is because recently it came up playing video games with Don Michelle that the character in Baldur's Gate 3, Gale, that this is like a Gale deck, and I actually really totally agree. I feel like I could see Gale being a professor at this academy and just like living life and doing a great job. That's totally a Daenerys Targaryen for me, and it always and forever will be. There's some fun references actually in this deck. This reminds me of Lucifer from the show Lucifer. There are some Easter eggs that I believe are intentional. Little references to pop culture. There's a show referenced. I think it's called, is it called The Magicians? I really want to watch it, but I believe there's some references to that. Some inspiration from shows like that in here as well. Yeah, this is the one. Was it this one? This Four of Cups? Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. There was one or two cards that I remember kind of getting stuck on. I love this Ten of Wands, though. Anyways, okay. I love Llewellyn decks in general. I'm a big fan. I love this Four of Pentacles so much. It's great. It's great. I don't know what I'm babbling about. I'm just babbling. I enjoy this. This is pretty safe in my collection. I don't reach for it a ton, but it definitely has a completely different vibe than like the Everyday Witch Tarot, for example, which I'm sure we'll see that at some point when we're going through these. But that is the Wizard's Tarot. So far, so good. Not going anywhere. I'm not doing very good on the declutter aspect this time. So far, I haven't seen anything I would consider letting go of. So we'll just see where we end up. Oh, hopefully nothing falls. So let's talk about... I think this is now called the Tarot of Light, the Art of... It used to be called the Art of Love Tarot. I think it might now be called the Tarot of Light. This is the newer matte version. This has been a workhorse deck for me for a long time, but it's one that I haven't used a lot in the last year or two. It is a Blue Angel deck. It's on beautiful cardstock. It feels so lovely. This is a Toni Carmine Salerno deck. It's the only Toni Carmine Salerno artwork deck that I have, because I've noticed that if you get multiple decks with their artwork, sometimes you'll see the same image and it'll be meaning something different in a different deck. But this is a tarot. It's got a really soft approach, but it's got great keywords. I love the keywords that are attached to the cards. Knight of Hearts is romance, King of Trees is architect, Seven of Stars is faith. They work really, really well. There's a few that are definitely different, but it's got a soft touch, this deck, and it's got a gentle approach that's really great. I use this a lot, actually, or was using it a lot for long-term relationship readings, for romance readings that felt more grounded than not grounded than passionate, but if I was getting more of a watery feel than a fiery feel from my intuition when it came to that relationship, I would reach for this deck. We have stars instead of wands, angels instead of swords, hearts instead of cups, and trees instead of pentacles. I really enjoy this deck. There's a lot of angel imagery throughout, but it doesn't bother me at all. It's just got a really soft, gentle approach. I would say that this is like my good tarot. Like, you know, the Good Tarot by Colette Baron Reid? This is like that for me. And I think that's why I was there was this one day where I was really, really craving gentle messages, and I kind of forgot about this deck. And I went and picked up the Good Tarot, and I didn't end up keeping the Good Tarot, I'm pretty sure. I guess we'll find out when I do my collection, finish my collection. But I didn't end up keeping it. And I think that's because I have this, and this does that job for me. The glossy version of these cards that I had before this matte version got really beat up because I was using this deck constantly. But funny enough, I haven't used it much lately, but it is beautiful. I still really love it. It's safe. It's definitely a good lovey-dovey deck. Great for that. Gosh, I hope I can do something in this category. Okay, so we have the Tarot of the Shei. This is also very safe with me. I am tempted to buy another copy and retrim it because I've seen some people trim it where borders are smaller and they keep the little bit of the side border. I can't remember who first did that. Was it Dawn Michelle? I can't remember. I do like it this way, kind of narrow, and yeah, I do enjoy it. But I also think I would enjoy it just a little bit bigger. In any case, this is a wonderful Fae deck. I love this deck. I love the guidebook. I love the way that this taps into Fae energy. It does a really good job of tapping into the wild Fae for me. I freaking love the Dancer Princess. I love these cards. I think this is a fantastic deck. I'm actually hoping that we get a chance to study it in the Unicorn Fam Deck Study Club, because I think this would be a really, really good one. It'd be a great one for this time of year, but it'd also be a good one for sort of the height of summer. So maybe I'll throw this on our Deck Study Club poll for summer. If you're in the Unicorn Fam and you're watching this, can you help me remember that I want to do that? Because I think we're studying our current deck in April, May, and our next one will be June, July. So this would have to be August, I believe, because we're committed already to what we're studying in those other months. But this would be a really great one to get into. So I would like to revisit this deck in a study. I think it'd be really great. I'm repeating myself. But anyways, I really like this deck. I feel like I'm talking a lot about each one because I'm getting into that phase of the filming process. I filmed a few of these videos today, and I'm like, I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling and showing cards. All right, let's look at the Gentle Tarot. So I did have the little tarot in a tin version of this deck, but I have to admit, I really love my original. I also really like the linen version of this deck, and I think if I was getting it brand new, if I was buying it for the first time, I would probably buy the linen version. I really, really like it. I got my hands on it when I got a chance to meet Mari at an event in my area. The linen just feels nice. It just feels nice. Anyway, the Gentle Tarot is exactly that. It is a soft and gentle tarot that kind of pulls you into yourself. It's special. I can't imagine letting this deck go. There's a few cards that don't immediately speak to me necessarily, but the minute I open up this little guidebook or the bigger guidebook, which I also own, I get just a wonderful message. I think it's kind of interesting. I know that the big guidebook goes so much deeper than this one does, it's really spectacular. But this guidebook, this little one that comes in the standard version of the deck, is, I think, really, really good. And I think there was maybe some criticism or, feedback about it, but I really like it. I think that one thing I would like to do more of with this deck is work with it at face value. In other words, not try to maybe specifically avoid leaning into the guidebook for a while and just see how it reads. I so love Mari's words that I lean heavily into them. And then I think I missed the opportunity to bond with this deck in a more intuitive way. And I think it's there. I think the intuitive imagery is there. But this is just such a soothing, comforting deck to work with. I feel like I do have quite a few of those in my collection, but this one's got a strong self-care feeling to it. It's definitely one I enjoy reaching for when I need that soothing energy. So the Gentle Tarot, this is safe. This is for sure safe. And I just love it. I did take it out of its bigger box because the guidebook was a little bigger than the cards, and that made the box really big. But I just keep these together. I don't always keep my guidebooks with my decks, but with Mari's, I just really enjoy her words. So I do keep the book with the cards. That one's safe. We're not making any progress. Okay, the Tarot of Delphi. This is a special deck. My box has suffered a few dings as I've played with this deck, worked with this deck. It is a special one for sure. I recently had this out so that I could do a side-by-side with the Tarot of Aphrodite. And what I found going through this deck and right next to Natasha's deck is I found that I preferred the Tarot of Aphrodite in a lot of cases. Now, this is a beautiful deck. It is a treasure, and I was very, very grateful to be gifted a copy. It was really special. And it's become something that definitely sits in a space, like I said, of being treasured in my collection. I do feel that for a while, this bugs me. The garden card bugs me. I know that it's the world card, so I know that it's on purpose, but it also bugs me that some of the cards have wider borders than others just because of the formatting and the artwork and the way that it was cropped. That does bug me, I gotta admit. But the artwork in general is beautiful, and this is a highly sought after deck. It's definitely not something I could bring myself to get rid of at all, probably ever. But I do think what I want to do is set it aside off of my hanging racks, lean into the Tarot of Aphrodite for a little bit because that's the one I'm drawn to work with right now, and then see if I miss this one. See where I sit with it. I'm happy to own this as a collectible, at least for now. And we'll see where I end up. But in truth, I find myself, maybe because it's such a sought-after deck, I find myself treating it like a precious object and not like a deck I can use. That's a me thing. I had the same problem with the indie version of the Lightseers Tarot, actually. Because what was happening was the indie version of the Lightseers Tarot was people were going nuts over it, and I had one, and I found myself being afraid, maybe not afraid, but like hesitating to use it. It just felt kind of too precious. And so I purchased for myself the mass market version of that deck and started using the heck out of it. And I eventually sold my indie because I just never reached for it. I didn't want to touch it because it felt too precious. And I do wonder if someday this will leave my collection for that reason. I very highly doubt it, but it's possible because I just feel precious about it. Whereas the Tarot of Aphrodite, which is newer and was not, it was gifted to me. It wasn't something, it doesn't feel precious to me the same way. And that's not a negative thing about that deck. It just means it feels more accessible. And I like pink. I mean, yes, I'm superficial like that. What can I say? So I think I'm going to put this one to the side. It's going to get put away for now. It's not going to be put into purgatory. It's going to go on a shelf to be stored. And we'll see where I end up with that. Okay, this one is also going to be safe. I feel like all of these are going to be safe, but we'll see. Okay, so this is the Guardian Angel Tarot, the Doreen Virtue deck. When I got it, it only had Radley Valentine's name on it. This is probably my first trim that I was really, really proud of. I measured very, very carefully. I used pastel inks to ink the sides, and this was inspired by a Don Michel modification, and I just was so happy with how it turned out. I really enjoy this deck. This is definitely my grandma deck. Literally feels like little messages from a grandmother in a way that nothing else does. It's just got this like vintagey, like really old school, old fashioned. It's very much a deck out of its time. This doesn't feel at all like anything else I own, and I wouldn't want it to. I like that it kind of exists in its own world. I don't really look at the artwork that much or the images that much. I really read the message. This is my very, very first bedtime deck. It's why I like having a bedtime deck, because I had this for so long as a bedtime deck. How many times can I say that in this sentence? Probably more. But anyways, I started getting in the habit of keeping this by my bed and reading the message, like pulling a card for myself and reading it before I went to sleep. And I loved that practice. And this is what started that practice. So I keep going back to it again and again and again. But really, it's this one and Song of the Grandmothers tend to sit in that space for me a lot. I'm trying to think if I have any others that I could rotate in as bedtime decks. I'm sure I've got one or two. There's always decks coming out, especially decks by Radley Valentine that I look at. Is it Radley Valentine? Yeah, it's Radley Valentine. There's an animal spirit one I think that just came out that I think I look at and I'm like, oh, that would make a good bedtime deck. But this particular one is my personal favorite for that. It's just got, it gives me all the warm and fuzzies. It feels very much like a self-care type of deck. Its messages are always slanted in it to be encouraging and kind and gentle. And like the, oh, I just said, there was another deck I just said that was like this. And it flew out of my brain. Oh, the Art of Love Tarot. The Art of Love Tarot would also make a lovely bedtime deck. But I like for bedtime decks, I like when they have sort of a message right on the cards. But yeah, I've got a few gentle decks like this that are just lovely, and I love the Guardian Angel Tarot. So this one's safe. These all might be safe. I know I keep saying that. Let's just see where we end up. Okay, so we have this one. This is the Fantasia Tarot by Paulina Fay. I really like this. I like it, but I don't use it a ton. But I have no desire to let it go. I had such a wonderful time bonding with the Joie de Vivre Tarot by Paulina Fay, but I ended up letting that one go. I also really bonded twice. I owned this deck twice, the Spirit Song Tarot. Loved that one, but eventually let it go. This seems to occupy the space between those decks for me, where it gives me some of that sort of carnival, playful, fantastical vibe that I got from the Joie de Vivre, but also has some of that soothing, kind of almost natural world energy, like animal energy that I got from the Spirit Song. Only it's kind of together. Now, the Fantasia Tarot has a mythical story time, storybook kind of feel to it, but in Paulina's art style that is just so charming. I actually genuinely really, really enjoy this deck. It's not one I think to reach for a lot, and I'm wondering if, or I'm hoping that in clearing some of the clutter, the decks that have become clutter, I should say, in my collection, this one will kind of rise to the foreground again, because it's really quite sweet. Happy to have it, and I don't want to let it go. So this is a US Games deck, I believe. Yeah, US Games, and has a lovely little guidebook. Simple messages, but they give you some keywords, reversed message, reversed keywords, and an upright message, of course. And it's just really, it's really sweet. I like it. I like the shape of it. I like the colors. It's not too pale, but it's also not too bold. I mean, Paulina's artwork is always very soft in color. So yeah, this is really lovely. The Fantasia Tarot. Where to go next? Let's look at the Inkwitch Tarot. I really like this. I forget about this. This has also got my favorite kind of box. Just love it. I just love this kind of box. This is one of those awesome decks where this is the second edition version. The creator sent this to me. What I love about this edition is that there was all of these alternate, there's so many alternate cards, so you really got to customize your deck. So there was the actual deck itself, and then there was a first expansion and a second expansion. And with all of that, we were really able to make the deck our own, and I love that. So I've done that with this. And this is another one. I need to hang this with my... Is it Pips, though? Not really. I was just going to say, I need to hang this with my Pip deck, so I remember. I feel like this needs to be sorted in with decks like the Spacious. It's such a difficult card. I can't believe he put that in there. No, but I need to put this with decks like the Spacious Tarot. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I've had the Spacious Tarot hanging up on my favorites rack for a while. I think I'm going to put this on my favorites rack and pull Spacious Tarot down and give this one a shot, because I haven't... This is going to work in all the same spaces. all the same sort of moods that I would reach for the Spacious Tarot. There's something about these like kind of gray neutral color palettes, these very like muted tones that I am drawn to when I want a very calming deck. So this deck has a very soothing, calming feel to it. I am going to do exactly that. That's what I'm going to do. So this is definitely safe. I really enjoy this deck, and I'm going to stick it up on my favorites. We're going to do a little swapsies. That's what we're going to do. Oh my gosh. Did you know I made a tarot deck? Oh my God. Okay, it's time for our little plug. I made the Unicorn's Journey Tarot, and this deck is currently in the process of funding on Kickstarter. Please consider backing it if it is your style. This is a narrative deck that tells the story of a little unicorn named Mystic who doesn't know that they're a unicorn. And they discover that they are a unicorn through the journey of the major arcana from the Fool to the World. In every suit that follows, Mystic goes on some very special adventures through a magical land and learns even more about themselves and how to be in the world, how to live authentically, how to stand on their own four legs, how to embrace their own magic and potential, and they find family. So there's stories here of finding one's people, but also finding contentment within themselves. It's a deck about self-worth and self-actualization. It's about learning to find your way in a world that is so uncertain and just facing challenges and learning how to come through the other side. It's full of really charming little characters. I'm so, so proud of it. And the Kickstarter is the biggest, most scary thing I've ever done in my life. But I am really, really proud of this deck and love the way that it all turned out. There are more decks in the works, but this will always have a very, very special place in my heart as my very, very first one. But it can't come to fruition without the support of the people who back me on Kickstarter, back this project on Kickstarter, and support its creation. That is how the print run will happen. And ideally, we're going to hit some awesome stretch goals. Maybe by the time you're watching this video, we've hit them already. I'm filming this video before the Kickstarter even launches, but you're seeing it after it's launched. So hopefully by the time you're watching this, the Kickstarter is doing famously, and we're doing really well, and we're hitting stretch goals, and we're getting all the goodies. I'm really hopeful, but please consider checking it out if unicorns are your thing, if self-worth vibes are your thing, or you just like tarot that tells a story or offers a really unique perspective on the meaning of the cards. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Hopefully I'll see you over on the Kickstarter page or in the comments over there, but thank you so, so much. Let's get back to the decks. Next up, we have one that's been newer to my collection, the Cozy Witch Tarot by Amanda Lovelace. I'm a fan. I love this. I feel like this is another one that would make a great bedtime deck, because there is, actually, maybe I'll try this for a bit as a bedtime deck. I mean, I feel like it feels more autumn than fall. What did I just say? More autumn than spring. But, yeah, maybe it's not quite right for this time of year, actually, the more that I look at it. Maybe I need to pull out a different thing. Song of the Grandmothers for a bedtime pull? This is such an autumn deck. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is like, pull this out September 1st. That's the vibe. This feels like it would carry me all the way through, like, maybe even December. November? September, October, November? Good bedtime deck. Maybe I need to pick a few decks who are going to live, not me just being totally random, but maybe I need to pick out some bedtime decks and keep them literally by my bed and pick them out seasonally. Let's see what that would look like. Okay, we'll do that at the end. We'll do that at the end. I'm going to put this at the top, and we'll do that as a little add-on to this video. Okay, let's try to stay on track. So I have the Healing Waves Tarot, but I also have the Flow Tarot. This deck took me through such a hard time. I was like really struggling, and it was this deck and actually Kimberly Sands' Align Heart that was they got me through. So the Flow Tarot is a photographic, just beautiful deck. It is all based on the element of water, and I've heard a rumor that this creator is planning to do all the elements, so earth, air, and fire as well. I would love that because she did such an incredible job with the water deck. It makes so much sense, and it's easy to know what you're looking at. So we have ponds, clouds, snow, ponds, clouds, snow, and waves. So waves are wands, clouds are cups, snow is swords, and ponds are pentacles. And then you have the major arcana. This deck feels like the water element to me. And actually, in a lot of ways, this deck sort of stepped in where I thought the Healing Waves was going to be. And the Healing, this gets more use in my collection than the Healing Waves does, actually. Because this feels like the element of water. The messages feel like the element of water. It feels like it meets me in that emotional place that the water element is. It feels like it nurtures me in that way. This deck feels like a trip to the ocean, makes me feel. And that's a very hard energy to try to capture. It's very specific. But this deck does such an incredible job, and I love it so much. The book with it that you can get with it is absolutely incredible. So yeah, that one's safe too. All right, well, so much for clearing up this particular shelf. This is such a fun combo of decks, and I'm so glad I got them. I love working with them together. So this is the As Above, So Below deck set that you can get. These are by Barbara Moore, and they are really incredible. I love these. So they are literally designed to, well, I don't know if designed to work together, but in the As Above deck, you have a lot of very intense, like sort of spiritual concepts, and you have this very ethereal fantasy art style. And a lot of decks, a lot of the cards have been renamed into spiritual concepts. It's very Wiccan. It's got a very heavy Wiccan vibe to it. So elements, and it literally feels like it's taking place on a celestial, in a celestial realm, if that makes sense. Whereas the So Below deck is very grounded in the everyday. It's got this almost like graphic novel style of art, but in every card there are these little hints of spirit that show up. There shouldn't be reverse cards in this one. And I love, maybe I did shuffle reversals in. I love working with the two side by side in an As Above, So Below reading. And I used them like that for like a good month or two and really just had an incredible time with it. Yeah, I must have been reading with reversals. That's so funny. I really like the As Above, the So Below, I should say. I really love the So Below deck. They've got very different vibes. They do not look like they're meant to go together, but they do because of the premise, right? The premise is what makes them go together. Yes, I'm going to turn all these around right side up because I can't help myself. They go really well together. I had so much fun working with it, and the book that gets into both of these decks is really good. So you can buy these decks separately, or at least you could when I got them, but I got them together in a set. It's the Book of Shadows Tarot set is what it's called. I will link the set in the description box below, just so you know what I got, and I think the set is very worthwhile. It's been around for a long time. This isn't like new to the market at all, but I think it's a very substantial deck. Like, it's got a lot of substance. It's a substantive deck. I love that word. I don't know why. It's definitely not a superficial deck, but I do have Wiccan roots. And so decks that have those Wiccan references can be really nice. I wouldn't identify as like a Wiccan these days or anything, but I do have a lot of time spent in Wiccan and Wiccan adjacent spirituality. So these really do speak to me on that level, which is really cool. And I have them in a divided Peggy bag, and I just keep them together so that I can work with them together. And this actually kicked off kind of a new practice for me where I enjoy working with decks that have complementary but opposing energies. And so I think what I'll do actually is talk about that, since this sort of kicked off something else. So let me talk about that right now since we're here. So let's just talk about the little stack of decks that are living right here on my table, because it's kind of relevant to that conversation I was just having about As Above, So Below. This is the Notoria Tarot in Light and the Goetia Tarot in Darkness. These are both by Fabio Lestrani. And I like to work with these in a very, very similar way to the way that I work with the Book of Shadows tarot set. So, Notoria Tarot in Light is based on the 72 angels of the Hemaphresh. I'm so bad at pronouncing stuff, y'all. It's based on that. And then the other 6 cards are bonus cards that do tie in with the tarot. Every angel has been assigned a tarot card. And then the Goetia Tarot in Darkness is based on the 72 angels of the Ars Goetia in the Lesser Keys of Solomon. Or Lesser Keys. I don't know, man. One of those. So these have a very contrasting, but in a way complementary energy, where the angels speak to the light and the demons speak to the darkness or the shadow. And it's been really potent for me to work with them together. I've really actually enjoyed that practice. I'm not attached to or are bonded in any way to working directly with angels or demons. And I don't particularly buy into the hype around either. However, as an archetypal journey of the light and shadow, I feel like they make beautiful or powerful representations. And I've gotten some really good, meaty readings from working with these decks together. And I've got 2 Oracle decks that I'm playing with. Now, I discovered these decks through talking to Don Michelle and our shared love of Baldur's Gate 3, and that's a whole other layer. But at the end of the day, what I'm really drawn to about these is the way that they interplay light and shadow in a way that gets me out of my head. I think because I'm working with cards that depict such unrealistic, to me, entities, I don't get distracted by the nitty-gritty of them. Right? Instead, it's almost like art on cards that represent concepts in that way that they feel very archetypal. In trying to find an Oracle deck or Oracle decks that work with these, Dawn Michelle and I tried these 2. I think she's tried a couple of others as well. So this one has got a guidebook. These are both low Scarabeo oracles, and these are also low Scarabeo decks, tarot decks. Dante's Inferno is a Paulo Barbieri deck that is authored by Charles Harrington. This feels like it sits in the space of more like being aligned with the Goetia deck. It feels like it dips into the darkness and gives more clarity to the message. It's intense. This is an intense oracle deck. Very, very, very shadowy. And it seems to work really well for really highlighting or explaining the message in the Goetia. And I really like the guidebook with this one. The Mausolea Oracle of Souls seems to partner the best with the Notoria for me to clarify that message. And I think that's because the Mausolea Oracle of Souls has archetype references of like figures from mythology. So we have goddesses, gods, and mythical heroes that show up in this. So they have, to me, a brighter vibe, a lighter energy than what we see in the Dante's Inferno. And there's good keywords on the card. So how I've been kind of structuring this reading is I've kind of been using the Oracle deck from the Mausolea, a card from the Mausolea to clarify the angel message, and a card from Dante's Inferno to clarify the demon message. And that's been a really powerful way to lay these decks out and work with them. And I've been getting some really substantial good readings from them. So that's kind of how I'm working with these right now. But this all started really with that Book of Shadows tarot, the As Above, So Below decks from Barbara Moore, and enjoying that sort of contrasting energy, looking at the light and the shadow together in a reading with decks that really bring that out. And that's where this sort of all began. If I hadn't have already had that experience with the Book of Shadows decks by Barbara Moore, I don't think I would have been drawn to try to work with these in this way. And I've actually been getting really good, like I said, juicy readings, really helpful personal growth readings out of working with them, with all of these decks together like that. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that as part of this collection because these are living right now on my desk. Now I have to hope that I remember that I've already covered them. But there's some decks that do that. They're just kind of living in these weird spots, doing specific jobs, and this is one of them. So this has been out lately because I've been working with it lately. So it's been really interesting work for sure. So I'm going to just put this stack back where it was. I mentioned taking a few minutes at the end of this video to select seasonal bedtime decks. So I'm going to do that as part of this collection video because, like I said, we're being chaotic. This is how we're rolling. This is how it is. So, autumn. Cool, we're set. The one I want to also pull in for sure is the Song of the Grandmothers. And I feel like this is spring or summer. Spring or summer. Okay. Winter. I wonder, could Tarot of the Crone, this might be too much for a bedtime deck. Let's do a sample pull. I feel like this could be a good winter. Let's pull the Shadow of Discs and read the guidebook and see. Does this feel like it could be a good grandma deck? So Shadow of Discs. Where are discs? Grandmother. Shadow. Bones. What is essential? I persevere. A spider weaves a web, a single ant treks, and bones give up their spirit in a land barren, but for a spine of protruding stone. Sometimes life is just tough all the way and you're forced to get down to the bones. What can't you live without? What must be left behind? What is already gone? When so much of life can get stripped away, what remains of your reality? Time to clear the clutter, or the clutter will be cleared for you, and hold close to whatever you can keep, for it will build the framework of your future. I feel like this could be good for winter. It's a little intense, but I feel like that's kind of what I expect for winter work. So I think this could work for a winter grandmother deck. So if this is spring or summer, oh, of course, duh, guardian angels. So why don't I do guardian angels for spring, song of the grandmother for summer, cozy witch for autumn, and tarot of the crone for winter. And I'm going to like lay these out, like put them over by my bed, actually. And so right now, I would say I'm still in spring. So I would use, is this spring though, or is this more winter? Hold on. Why does this... Why does this feel like winter to me, or summer? Well, look at the colors. This is spring. This is spring. Easter eggs. We're just gonna go with it. I'm gonna just try it because I really like having a deck by the bed, and having them be out seasonally just seems like a really fun practice. And it will give me an opportunity to work some more with Tarot of the Crone. So I think I'm gonna do that. So these are gonna go move to be over by my bed, and I'll work with the Guardian Angel Tarot for the last little bit of spring here, and then I'll transition over to Song of the Grandmothers, Cozy Witch, and then Tarot of the Crone. I think that'll be great. I think that'll be fun. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, wait a minute. Wild Messengers. This is the one I was thinking would make a good bedtime deck. This would make a great bedtime deck. I think I'm going to pull this in instead of Tarot of the Crone for my winter bedtime deck. So I did all that modification so that I'd have, I don't know if I showed you this video. I think I showed you in a prior video, but I modified this to write the messages right on the cards. So this is what I'm going to use for my winter bedtime deck. I'm going to save Tarot of the Crone for something else. All right, just had to insert this in the video because that's what I'm going to do. Cool. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this tarot collection and declutter. This was a lot of fun. I am really enjoying this series. I hope you are too. As always, I appreciate you all so much. Extra big thank you goes out to my Unicorn Fam channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really makes such a difference. You can never possibly know how much. Thank you so much. To everybody watching the videos, liking, subscribing, commenting, those actions are things that make a huge difference here. So thank you for engaging. Thank you for talking to me in the comments, so it's not just a one-way street. I really enjoy that too. And I wish you all the very best day ever. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.